System initializing. Identifying subject. Subject identified. Prentice Moore. Male, 22 years old. Status, unsure about future. Identity discovery required. Analyzing medical records. Locator activated. Last known location. Subject on the move. Location identified.
All right. Now, let me ask you this. For those of you that have been coming through the series, have any of you caught yourself having a conversation with someone using the vernacular that we're learning here, realizing they have no idea what you're talking about? Anybody? Can I see a show of hands? Right? So this happened to me the other day. I was talking to someone, and I started talking about the animal personalities, and I said that I was a lion, and this guy goes, I won't say who, he's not here, it's okay, but he goes, I think I'm a squirrel. And I was like, you are a little squirrely, man. That's just totally true. It's funny, though. What happens is we forget what's happening here is not something that everyone knows. And for a lot of you, you didn't know this until you got in here over these last few weeks. And so I want to say that to just really encourage you, because what we're learning is helping us to discover things about ourselves that we may have known, but we didn't realize it. We didn't connect the dots. But I also want to encourage you that this is great conversation for friends, family, coworkers, those of you that lead ministries or have people that work under you at work or even at school with projects, to understand different personalities, different things that people have and how they're wired will help you to work better. And so I really hope this has been helpful. Tonight we're going to unpack a whole new dynamic, which is a little bit more familiar, which will help us to get through this quickly. But we all started growing up speaking a language, right? We all have we'll call it our native language. So for most of us, it's English. Maybe a few of you grew up in another country, and so your native language was something different, and then you acquired English the longer that you were here. What we all know is our native language is the one that flows out the easiest, right? You don't have to worry about it. It's natural for you. It just comes out because you've been learning it basically since you were a kid. What's interesting is your native language always comes from the people that raised you. So your parents raised you, therefore you picked up their native language. That's how it was passed down. But what's interesting is if we were to ever try, how many of you speak more than one language? Shoot your hand up real high. When you try to learn that second language, unless maybe they taught it to you when you were really young, for those of us that were a little bit older trying to pick up a second language, it's very difficult. It doesn't come naturally, right? Because it's almost counterproductive, if you will, to what you've been doing since you were a kid. And so the idea is our native language always flows out the best, and we're going to work hard for any other second language that we pull in. Now, why is that important? Well, have you ever been to a foreign country and tried to have a conversation with someone, or maybe even right here in Houston, which we are unbelievably diverse in our city, and tried to have a conversation with someone that does not speak your language? It's pretty difficult, right? You resort to grunting, pointing, drawing pictures. I mean, you're doing anything you can to find a way to communicate because there is a barrier between you because you don't speak the same language. What's interesting is what we're going to look at tonight is the thing that's called the 5 love languages. And it's the idea that you and I share and receive love in different ways. There are certain ways that you receive love that's natural to you because God has wired you that way to receive love. And if someone doesn't understand that, it can be similar to someone trying to speak another language to you. They could be trying to love you just like that person is trying to speak to you, but because they don't speak that same language or they don't know the language in which you speak, they can't help you. And so we're going to discover tonight, and I think it's going to be super helpful for you, the 5 love language and how they operate. And then when we're done, we're going to give you a chance to take a test where you can see which one best fits you. Now tonight I wanted to do it a little different. I didn't want to do the test first because I want you to get a good grasp of all of the love languages without your mind kind of being jaded by which one is yours. And the reason I'm doing that is because this is going to be a very prominent thing within your life and in your family. And so I want you to get to see all of the love language come to life. And as we're going through, you're going to probably be able to tell which one's yours. But then when we're done, you'll be able to take the test or take it home and take it tonight if you want. And you'll be able to know exactly which one is yours. Does that make sense? So the 5 love languages, that's where we're going tonight. It's going to be good. Now, one other thing. How many of you have ever fallen in love before? It's okay. You can be honest here, right? If you're married, you definitely should raise your hand. Just a little tip, hint there. All right? If you've ever fallen in love, you go through a stage, which we've talked about numerous times within our ministry here, called the infatuation stage. The infatuation stage is what? It's basically when they can't do anything wrong, right? They're perfect. They look perfect. They talk perfect. Everything they do is perfect. Even when everyone else you know is telling you they're not perfect, you can't seem to see past they're perfect. Everything's great, right? It's called the infatuation stage. Well, here's what's interesting. For some people, when we relate it back to love languages, is the infatuation stage can cover a season of your life where it doesn't matter how you exchanged or shared or received love because the infatuation stage overruled everything. But then particular couples will get married, and roughly in a year to 2 years, how long they say that infatuation stage will last, then the infatuation begins to go and reality sinks in, and they begin to look across the table and be like, oh, you're not perfect anymore. I mean, I didn't mean to say that, but that's what I was thinking. And what happened is just, I didn't notice these things about you before. You have bad breath and you don't, I'm just kidding. But you have all these things and it's like all of a sudden it's coming to life and you never saw it. And then you start trying to be in a relationship and to love each other. And what you're realizing is you never discovered how to best love each other. And so things begin to have real trouble. And unfortunately for some people, it can begin to fall apart. And so we got to be careful. And I know you guys aren't married yet, but that day is coming. And so I'll give you that little tidbit, just something to think about. We need to understand how we share and receive love. It's going to be super helpful. 1 Corinthians 13:13 says this. You know this verse, very popular. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these 3. But the greatest of these is what? Love. Now when Paul writes that, by the way, he's not writing to a wedding or a couple at a wedding. He's writing to the church. He's writing to the church. He's writing to you guys, to me, to us as a body of believers. And he's saying these things, but he says that love is the greatest. If love is the greatest, there must be something there, right? It must be more than just saying, I love you, which leads us to this idea of love languages. And in particular, this thing that we're going to call the love tank. All right? So the love tank is this idea that each one of us have a tank inside of us. Isn't that awesome? Super romantic. You have a tank inside of you. And imagine that tank holds love. The more that you're loved, the more that love tank, guess what, fills up. The longer you are not loved or the more that it's depleted, the less that tank goes. And what happens, you begin to feel insecure. You begin to have strong emotions, maybe even possibly depression, because you and I were all wired to be loved first by God and then extended into the world and the people, the community around us. And so if we go long enough without the love tank being filled, we get to a place where we are really struggling. And so this is the idea that we have a love tank and we need to keep that love tank full. And we're going to do that by understanding how we're loved. So let's get into this. Here's the first one. There's 5 of these. Here's the first one. Words of affirmation. Words of affirmation. Mark Twain said this: I can live for 2 months on a good compliment. Anybody feel that way? Man, someone comes and just says, just a really strong, sincere, good compliment. You feel like you could go on forever. Here's the truth. All of us appreciate a kind word. All of us do. But for some of us, this is what fills our love tank. This is the way we feel people loving us. Proverbs 18:21 says this: death and life are in the power of the tongue. What does it look like? Well, we know the basic verbal compliments, right? You look very nice today. That mask looks great today. You can try it tonight. I don't know how it's going to work for you, but right. So we know the basics of this. We're always trying to encourage. We're giving compliments. We want people to feel good. We want them to feel encouraged. So this is an example of words of affirmation. But within each of these love languages, there's what we call different dialects. There's different ways that this is processed. So for some people, their words of affirmation are going to come better written. Anybody like receiving letters, right? There's something about just receiving a letter. And for some of you, that's my wife, by the way. She loves to write and she loves to receive notes, right? I could buy a bunch of gifts. It's irrelevant. If I write a note, that's all I need to do, and it saves me a lot of money, right? Well, I'm telling you, when you figure this out, guys, it's genius. But for her, she's words of affirmation, and in particular, she likes to see written things. She likes me to write and to encourage her. She likes me to post online every once in a while and just kind of reminds people how much I love her, right? Because it reminds her how much I love her. All of these things are wrapped into this idea of words of affirmation. So sometimes it's not just compliments, though. Of course, when I come home and say, babe, you look nice today. Thanks for cleaning the house. All those great things. All that's good, but sometimes there's different dialects. So for her, it's writing. For some, it's learning how to have a humble request. Right? A lot of times we demand things instead of request them. For people with words of affirmation, this is really big. They don't want you to tell them what to do. They want you to ask them. And when you ask them, you open up a door for them that just ignites them. Words of affirmation. Sometimes it's indirect. Right? Sometimes it's said while they're not there, but it's said about them. And you know, it'll probably get back to them one day, and you're building up their character, right? How nice is it to hear, like, oh, you know what, we were talking about you the other day, and she was just so complimentary about who you are and who you've become and what you're doing in the world today. And you're like, oh man, that was awesome. That feels so good, right? Sometimes it's in front of them to other people. Right? Some of my favorite moments are when I hear Sarah on the phone talking about maybe a message that I had just done or something that's happened. She's like, man, Chad's he's just really killing it. She doesn't say that, but he's just killing it. It's just going, and I'm like, yes, this feels so good, right? For some of you, your love tank is filled by words of affirmation. It's a good thing. You need to understand that. Now, with that, though, comes a warning. And that is that just as words will build you up, words can that quickly and that more devastatingly tear you down. When someone says something negative about a words of affirmation person, you are starting to deplete the love tank more than some of the other love languages. Words are a great thing, but they can be very dangerous. We need to understand that about ourselves and about the people that are around us. Let's move on to the second one. Quality time. How many of you like to just spend time with people? Yeah, right? Watching TV. No. Right? Quality time is not just sitting in a room together, right? So here's the thing. All of us appreciate spending time with people, right? Pretty much a lot of you, that's why you're here. You just want to be around people, man. You want to have people your age going through life stage, all that's great. We all appreciate that. But for some people, quality time is what fills your love tank. So we have to talk specifics here because this is important. Togetherness and proximity. All right? We got to think about this. Let's use this example. I have a son at home. So if I'm sitting up with my boy and I roll him a little ball and he catches it, right? Because he's a monster athlete, right? Just kidding. I roll him the ball. It's great, right? We're spending time together, right? Of course, I'm rolling the ball, but we are locked into each other. But if I do that same activity while I'm on the phone, does it have the same effect? No, because I'm doing it, but I'm not quite there. Ladies, by the way, this is why, because you're so good at multitasking, remember last week? You're so good at multitasking, you have to be really careful. Because you can think you're giving them attention, especially quality time people, but you could be missing it because you're able to do a lot of things, but to them, they don't understand that. And so it's about the proximity. It's about being close together. It's about being very, very intentional. Quality conversations. This is intentional dialogue where you're actually sharing deep thoughts. For quality time people, they don't appreciate when they walk in the door and they're like, hey, how you doing? I'm good. How you doing? I'm good. And they're like, that was nothing. That meant nothing to me, right? All the otters are like, that's my favorite thing to do. I just want to say hi to everybody. But the truth is, quality time people, they want to get to know you. They want it to be meaningful and make sense. So I put together some things that I think are going to help you. Just quick, 3 keys for those when you're dealing with people that are of quality time. You need to know this. And this is good for life just in general, but it's going to really help you with quality time. But here's number 1. You need to keep eye contact with the person you're talking to. This is life principle right here, okay? I know some of you are going, why is he wasting my time with this dumb... Listen, there's a lot of people that don't do this. And I'm going to be honest, I catch myself doing the same thing. I'm talking to you, but my ADD kicks in. I don't even know if I have it, but it could, because I'm like, oh, a ping pong ball. Whoa. Right? Oh, there's a little kid. Oh, there's something I have to do. Oh, I just thought of something, right? And we live in a world today, even better, right? We do this. Oh, I don't have it. We pull out what? Our phone. Totally listening to, apps, keep on going, right? And you're talking, but you're not looking. To a quality time, that doesn't feel quality. Here's number 2 for them. You don't listen while you're doing something else, right? Go back to this. Ladies, be careful, you're multitaskers. Guys, really be careful, because you can only do one thing. So if you're doing something else, you're not even on the same planet as them right now. So you got to be super careful. So don't listen while you're doing something else. Keep eye contact while you're talking to the person. And here's number 3, and the last one, refuse to interrupt. Average American today, I don't know about the other people, Americans are just rude. Average American, 17 seconds. 17 seconds before you'll interrupt someone. That's the average, right? Now, it may not be like, hey, you're boring, stop talking, but it may just be saying something. Just, you can't help but not speak. It's about 17 seconds. That's the average. So for quality time people, this is really important. They want your attention, right? You can sit in a room on opposite sides of the couch, maybe one day when you're married or while you're dating, and you can watch TV, and that's not quality time to them. That's just being in the same room. Now, to someone else, that may be quality time because that's not your thing, so it doesn't matter. You're just watching TV. But to them, they want to have eye contact. It doesn't mean it's the only thing you're doing and you're locked in, stared down. It's the only way you can have a good conversation with them is if you're eye to eye and nothing else is happening. The room is dark. It's just lies. That's not how it is. But you got to have that kind of mindset because the reality is that's what they want, that kind of attention because they care. And that's how they receive love best. Quality activities fall in this too. Walking, shopping. For some of you don't need to shop because you just get angry. Listening to music. The list goes on and many things like that. So quality time. For some of you, that's it. Others of you, here's number 3. It's receiving gifts. How many of you like a good gift? All of us like a good gift, right? Some of you are like, I like that one. I want to be that one. Every day I want a new gift. That's awesome. No, you just have a problem, okay? It's an addiction problem to getting things. No, but for some of us, we all like to receive gifts, but for some of you, this is how your love tank's going to be filled. Okay, so let's talk about this just for a minute. Regardless of culture and nationality, throughout the span of history, giving gifts has always been a way that people have shown love. From all walks of life, of all nationalities, from now all the way back into history, gifts are a part of the sharing of love. What did gifts say? Gifts say, I was thinking of you. Gifts say that you matter. Gifts say that you're worth it. Now, even if you didn't spend a lot of money, but the time, the effort that went into that, whatever that was, I was thinking of you and I'm giving this to you as a gift. That sends love. And to some people, gifts, man, it's a special thing. Christmas is on a whole nother planet for you, right? Because you are a gifts person. That's how you receive love. Gifts are not always bought. Sometimes they're found, right? Some of the coolest gifts. I found this and I thought of you. I stole it from someone. I'm just kidding. I found this though and I thought of you. I thought you would really appreciate this. I made this. We don't do that anymore, right? Unless you're a Pinterest nut. You're the only ones. Everyone else, we don't make anything anymore because we can buy everything for dirt cheap. But how special is it when someone says, I took the time to make this for you. Look, I didn't do this, but someone took the time to make this for you. Done that? It's just balloons. It's nothing really special. It's just balloon. But isn't it kind of cool how someone took time to put that together so that we could have another element of our Valentine experience together? Isn't that cool? So it's not always about purchasing, though that is a part of it. It's about the thought that went into the gift. That's why, by the way, for gift people, a gift card's not going to cut it. Matter of fact, some of you are like, I got gift people covered. I just go to Sam's. They got every gift card. No. I'm going to beg to differ. I don't think gift people will appreciate gift cards. They appreciate what you bought with the gift cards because you took time to think about them and to purchase that. Also, you should do that at Christmas. You shouldn't buy gift cards unless it's for me. I really like them. But other than that, you really shouldn't because it doesn't show the time and the attention you took to give that gift. Now, here's one important thing. For the spenders, financially, if you end up marrying a gift person, this is going to be no problem for you. For those of you, though, that are really big savers, you're going to have to find some middle ground to loosen up a little bit. Now, I'm not saying you should go in debt and you should throw away all the hard Dave Ramsey work you've been doing your whole life or the last year, whatever it is. I'm not saying that, but the reality is, if this is how they receive love, you're going to have to take that into account. So it's a statement worth saying so that you think about. Some ideas really quick. You know, you go out of town, you bring home a trinket, right? I like trinkets. I like gift cards more, just saying. You go to the store and you pick out someone's favorite candy. Cost you $1, but you took the time to remember that they love Junior Mints. Or, I'm just kidding, right? I'm not a gifts guy. I'll explain at the end why I used to think I was. A cup of coffee. That's another one, right? You show up, Candace brought me coffee tonight, just say thank you for, I don't know what I did, something great. It was awesome, and it was great, and that's why I'm able to talk to you. I have energy because I had coffee, right? So you get these little gifts, and you go, man, someone was thinking of me. Someone was thinking about my situation, and they met that need by giving me the gifts. It's awesome. Then we have acts of service. Almost there. 2 more. Acts of service. We all like it when people help us out. We all appreciate it when someone does something for us that maybe we didn't want to do, or maybe we were a little overwhelmed, and to know that they took care of it for us, you go, man, this is so relieving. We all like that, but for some of us, people serving us, we gotta be careful with the verbiage here. People serving us is what fills our love tank. When people take time to come alongside of you and to assist you, it fills the love tank. Here's some ideas with this. Little things, like opening a door. Ladies, are y'all okay that guys don't open the door anymore? Is that cool? Like, you don't mind anymore? I mean, you should, but I was giving you a chance to all resoundingly say no. I was kind of disappointed in what just happened. We'll erase that from the tape so no one sees it, right? I mean, the truth is, it's such a subtle act, right? But, man, it's really special. It's really special, especially now, because most guys don't do it, right? Opening the door is a small example. For those of you at home, listen, if you have roommates, take out the trash. If you have roommates, just clean up. If you have roommates, do a bunch of things that you're probably not doing. That would be a great way to serve your roommates. Because when you get married, it's not going to be like, oh, I really wish she would. It's going to be like, why don't you do this? This is part of who you are. You said I do, which means the trash and all that comes with it, right? And so it's a good practice for those of you now. But the truth is, these are things for some people, they go a long way. If you take the trash out, for example, take the trash out for someone with words of affirmation, they'll be grateful. Take the trash out for someone that's an acts of service person, they will feel loved. It's a big difference. When you understand this about who you're working with and who you're around, and one day when you get married to someone, oh my goodness, you will be light years ahead. And the love that is spread between that relationship will be unbelievable because you understand each other and you understand how they receive love. There's a couple things we want to be careful of though. If you're an active service person, you need to be careful that people don't become doormats to you. Because that's the way you receive love, you can kind of cross the line. Ask too much. Everyone's always serving you, and you can become comfortable because it's part of your natural love language, and so it feels natural to you, but you want to be careful that you don't take advantage of people. The other thing is, some of you are going to have to overcome some stereotypes. It's possible, guys, that I think stereotypes within marriage have changed so much over the years. But let's just say you got married and you assume that your wife is going to do the cleaning and the cooking, and that's just what you expect. Maybe that's how you grew up, and so that's where that's coming from. And she's an acts of service person. And all of a sudden you're going, well, I'm not supposed to, hear me out here, I'm not supposed to take out, like, clean the house. That's her job. She does the laundry. I don't really do that. That's what she does. Well, listen. That's going to be an unbelievable way for you to show love, and you're going to have to put aside whatever stereotypes you might have. Now, I don't foresee that being a huge problem for us, but nonetheless, we always want to understand how we grow up radically impacts who we are, and so it's possible that could be a challenge. So you might have to learn to put the stereotypes away. So active service. Finally, the last one, physical touch. When I say physical touch, all of us appreciate a hug. You may not want to be hugged all the time. Some of you just don't like to be touched. But at some point in your life, multiple times throughout your life, you're going to appreciate a hug. We all appreciate a hug, but for some people, physical touch is what's going to fill the love tank. Now, you go, are you talking about sex? That's a great question. Sex is a part of it, but not right now. That's not what we're talking about, all right? And this is important because when we talk about love languages, a lot of people only refer to them within marriage. But what we're trying to do is prepare ourselves for our calling and our purpose that God has for us. What that means is we're going to interact with a lot of people in our life. So we got to understand how they tick, right? That's what we've been doing. If you are working alongside someone that has physical touch as their love language, you need to understand a few things. Number one, guys, you are not going to be able to extend that love the way that they probably need it, and that's okay. You don't need to do that. That's not your place, okay? That'll be for their spouse one day. For those of you girls to girls, you got to fill the gap. And guys to guys, you're going to have to fill the gap, right? Now, guys aren't going around holding hands. We know that. We got that, all right? But when you shake the hand of a guy, all right, you kind of, this is weird, you kind of pull him in for a little half hug, whatever, however you do that, right? Those little things actually go a long way, okay? For the ladies, a physical touch girl, the more you can hug them, just love on them, let them know, right? Just put your arm on the back. I heard a businesswoman say it like this. Here's what I like from the men that work with me. I prefer them to do a 2-pat on my back with no circles. 2 pats on my back, no circles. You do that, I know that you took the time to extend, and I do feel loved, but you haven't crossed the line. So maybe some of you just need to write that down. Ladies, if all of a sudden guys are like, hey, how you doing? Just know that they're trying to do this right. The reality is we know, and let's be serious for a minute, we know that sexual harassment has skyrocketed in our culture. I mean, it's unbelievable what's happening right now. So I don't want you to leave here and put yourself in some trouble. But look, we live in a sinful world. That's why that's a problem. If we didn't live in a sinful world, this would not be, I wouldn't have to even explain this. We would operate in how God wired us to be. But because of the world we live in, we want to be really, really careful. But for those of you that have physical touch as your love language, let me tell you how you'll know. If you've ever had anyone hit you, it hurts you far worse than anybody else. A guy that's not a physical touch, he gets, hit by someone, like, whatever, I'll hit you back. That's just what we do, right? But a child that is physical touch is their love language, and they get abused by their parent, it will mess them up. Abuse messes anyone up. It will mess them up in ways we can't even begin to describe. The person with words of affirmation that was verbally abused growing up, you might as well have hit that child, because these love languages have the opposite effect when they're not used appropriately. And so for physical touch, I don't want to just blow it off and say it's one of those things you have to deal with later, because for some of you, this is how God wired you. It's really helpful when you understand that about yourself, and you can think about how you can share with people what that means to you, how that works, so that you can receive love like everybody else. Really, really important. So we've got to step in for each other. Here's how I want to close this. Love is, and you've heard this, I've said this many times, but love is not an emotion, it's an action. Okay? So when you met someone for the first time, you fell in love, right? You felt a bunch of things, and then it fell apart. That's why, because you were writing the emotion, not the truth. For this right here, how we love each other is not how we feel about each other, it's how we choose to show it. It's an action. That's why I wanted you to kind of get the full scope of how these work. Because people in this room and people in your family and your sphere of influence, they need to be loved. And they need to feel that from you. And you need to know, I need to know as a lion firstborn and a male, all those things, I need to know who the words of affirmation people are that I am close with. Because I won't think about it. I will just say things, and I didn't mean to cause harm, but because they receive love through words of affirmation, and I didn't take the time to notice that, I trampled over, I might as well have punched them in the mouth, because that's how they received love, and I didn't take time, because naturally, I just tend to kind of move on. I tend to run people over, right? So we have to understand how we're wired, and we have to understand the people around us, and then we have to be willing to make the choice to want to love each other well. Now here's the last thing I'm going to share, and this is a little segment in itself. We are going to give that which we like to receive. So if you are a gifts person, you will give gifts naturally because that's what you like. So you just assume that's what everybody likes. But if you give gifts to a words of affirmation person, it's not going to translate the same. So for instance, Sarah and I, she's a words of affirmation person, and for now I'm going to roll with this and say I thought I was a gifts person. I liked gifts, I like to receive things. Okay, we'll explain that in a minute. And so I would always buy her things for different holidays, and she would always be grateful, but she'd look at me and say, why did you spend money on that? And I'm like, because I was trying to love you. Like, it's a lot of money. I mean, I would buy some expensive things. And you know what I realized? It didn't translate the same as me simply sitting down, taking the time to think through some words that were really meaningful and to write them down or to put them in a card and to give it to her. And to the gifts people, you're like, she doesn't want a gift, she wants a letter? That's so weird, right? Because it doesn't translate the same. So understand, you're going to tend to give that which you are. That's a good thing. But you have to know, especially when you guys start to move into relationships and you guys get closer with each other, you got to know what's happening on the other side, all right? So that you can truly love each other well. Now, here's the last thing to kind of wrap this part up. I thought I was a gifts person. This is really fascinating. I thought I was a gifts person. And then we realized, not too long ago, that I'm not a gifts person. I just like getting things. How we learned that was because Sarah would go on business trips and she'd come home and she'd bring me like the little trinkets, right? Trying to think of me. And I would get them and I'd be like, that's cool. It didn't do anything for me. And so I was processing why. What I realized is because I grew up in a very poor home, we didn't have a lot of money. I didn't get to buy a lot of new stuff. I especially didn't get to buy new clothes. I mean, I didn't have all of that. I started really enjoying doing that when I was able to. So I was overcompensating something that I thought was real, but really what it was coming from was from a lack of when I was a kid and now the ability to be able to do that. So I like to buy things. What I realized is when she buys me something, it didn't really mean anything, but when I got to go buy it, it was fun. That's why I'm not allowed to go to Best Buy by myself. I guess it's our rule, right? Because she knows, right? So there's something. So what happened? This is what's interesting. What happened? Why did I think I was a gifts person? Well, it was because of my past experiences. Because of memories that I had. When I grew up, my mom, because we lived in a poor neighborhood and we didn't have a lot of money, what my mom would do at Christmas, she would overcompensate to try to make up for that. So she would buy us a bunch of gifts, really weren't that high in value, and then she'd take them and she'd wrap them into like one gift that would normally be one, she'd wrap it into 3 pieces because she wanted us to experience Christmas. Well, what that did was feed this gift thing inside of me, right? Nothing wrong, but it jaded my view a little bit. I kind of missed it. What I want to show you with this as we close, because it's this important, your memories and your experiences in your life can radically affect who you are. Let me give you one example. For time's sake, I'm just going to give you one. Michael Jackson. Put it out there. Do you have the next one? There's young Michael Jackson. Everybody know who Michael Jackson is? Y'all aren't that young. Young Michael Jackson. All right? Michael Jackson became a great music star. We know that. But when Michael Jackson was growing up, somebody did a study, research, and they asked him, they said, what do you remember when you were young? Like, what are some of the memories that you remember most? He said, I remember 2 main things. There were 2 things. I remember my mom was always singing to me when I went to bed. And I remember walking into the recording studio every day as a kid and looking across the street and seeing a bunch of kids playing in the playground and wishing that I could do that, but knowing I had to walk into the record store. What happened to Michael Jackson? Next slide. Michael Jackson became a legend. That's great. Fair way to say it. Michael Jackson's mom singing to him every night influenced him and his brothers, and they took it as far as they could, and then he took it the rest of the way on his own, and he became a superstar. Those memories of his mom singing to him molded and shaped his future. He didn't even realize it. But then something else happened. Next slide. He built this place. Wrapped in controversy, wrapped in all kind of issues, all kind of stuff. We don't go in that. But let me ask you a question. Do you remember what the second memory was? What did he say? I remember my mama singing to me, and I remember every day walking into the recording studio and looking across the street and seeing kids playing at the park, my age, wishing that I could do that. Are you surprised? Those 2 memories drove Michael Jackson into a place that he probably didn't even realize. Now, forget the legalists, the things that are wrapped up in that and some of the things that may have happened that were wrong and all that, but just think of the place. What did he call it? You notice that? Neverland. why I didn't want to grow up. You know who was allowed there? Only kids. It sounds crazy because of the things he was accused of, I agree. But if you took that away for just a moment, what was he doing? He was trying to make sure the kids experienced what he felt like he didn't. Now, what does that show us? Our memories can be great, and our memories can be dangerous. Our memories can have a positive influence, and our memories can be devastating. I grew up in a divorced home. That's what I remember. That's as far back as I can remember, is my parents always being separated. I've always had a soft side for single parents because I watched my mom do it with the three of us my entire life. And when opportunity came here at the church for me to step in to help with our single parent ministry, I realized that, man, God had pre-wired me for that. I didn't even realize it. When I received Christ in 5th grade at a lock-in, I'll never forget. I knew exactly what I did. I knew exactly what it meant. But from that moment on, no one ever walked with me to teach me and to mold me and to shape me into what it means to be a believer. They just showed me Jesus, and then that was it. And so since then, as I started doing ministry, I wanted to make a priority that we would do things like what we're doing now, where we would try to learn about who we are. We'd try to discover God. We'd try to take things as deep as we possibly could with our setting and our timing, and we would learn about who God was, and that your life would be impacted, and you'd get to see what it means to be a Christian, and not always just hear about it. See, we think about these things, and we realize how they have radically impacted who we are. The last one I remember, this one's more recent, but I remember when I started walking with the Lord, and I really had committed my life to him, I remember looking around going, where are all the young people? At this church, by the way. Where are all the young people? Man, this is frustrating. I'm 21. I'm the only Christian. Now, we know how crazy that is, right? But that's how I felt. And that started a mission to want to learn and to grow and to open up a Bible study class, which eventually grew into all that we have now right here with just you guys. Why? Because the experiences, the memories, drove me. The experiences, the memories drove Michael. Some to be great, some to potentially have problems. And you need to understand. You got personality, you've got love languages, you've got a birth order, you've got a brain, male and female, but you also need to know. You also need to know that your experiences are going to radically impact who you are. It's important to think about that, to pray through that. Ask the Lord to help you to see that. Some of you are going to find some really cool things. I never thought about this, but I'm doing this because of what happened. And some of you might find some things you're going to need to look at, to be careful of, maybe to do some healing and some searching in, so you don't find yourself in a place you don't want to be. I love languages. It's a beautiful thing. And it will help you to feel loved. It'll help you to feel loved as a gift from God. Let's pray.